Oh, hey, what's up? My name is Rich. This is
Wayne, it's your buddy Wayne.
Wayne. We do actually work at OWC. We're in the marketing department, but this is not a show designed to just try and sell you products and stuff. Instead, we're here to talk
We
about
promise.
technology, news stuff, probably some weird things, too, just because we're kind of weird, which is why they kind of threw us in the weird little digital corner to just do our own thing for the show. They're like, I don't know, those guys are cool, but please get them away from the people in the office because they're
They don't seem too problematic, right? So far away from the office, like you're on one side of the country from the office, and I'm on the other side of the country from the office.
Yeah.
Never been to the office. Never been to the office.
I haven't either, dude. I've seen so many pictures of the office. It's amazing. I've seen a lot of backgrounds of offices inside the building, but that's as far as that goes.
It's a very cool office. It's got its own wind turbine and solar panel array. Like it's 100% sustainable.
Yep, that's one thing. That's one of the many things that is pretty awesome about OWC is their concern for the impact on the environment. So, amen.
That's
to
right.
That. Well, hey, let's dive in. We got a few news topics here. The first one is going to be around the digital version of a nuclear bomb that sort of hit all of these systems, like worldwide, right? It was like a global thing that basically happened. But CrowdStrike.
8.5 million Windows PCs and servers just went blue screen of death.
Yep.
After a botched security patch overnight that just was pushed through with apparently no testing, just pushed right through the system to 8.5 million unsuspecting PCs and servers at airlines and major institutions all around the world.
Delta canceled. Yeah, go for it.
More than 5,000 flights.
Yeah.
Just craziness. Thousands of pieces of luggage just stacked up. So lots of clothes that a lot of folks will probably never even see again. But on top of that, it'll be really interesting to see kind of here in the next few weeks, especially because the CEO of CrowdStrike. So again, if you don't know, before we get ahead of ourselves, CrowdStrike basically makes this. It's almost like a malware and other kind of vulnerability security tool that obviously a lot of businesses around the world use. They released a security patch overnight about a week ago today. So we're recording this on a Friday. It was released overnight on a Friday and just basically brought the digital world to its knees when it comes to a lot of businesses anyway. And so they have already called the CEO of CrowdStrike to testify before the House Homeland Security Committee to kind of figure out how something like this could happen. But it's one of those things. It's like, it is wild to me, like when a business, like a private company can, CrowdStrike is a public company technically. So when a company like this screws up so badly that they have to report before the government to get yelled at, so that we can figure out how to not do this again.
Yeah, they had to go to the ultimate principal's office, I think is basically what happened there. So
that's what it amounts to. Whether his reputation will recover, who knows? It'll be interesting to see if he survives this. Someone's gonna have to go. But the biggest thing about it is as soon as it happened, the reactions were basically like, this is not going to be easy to fix. It's blue screening literally all over the world. Blue screening on Windows computers is already a meme. So when it actually started popping up in all these places, people were freaking out, obviously. But everybody knew that you were going to need like one-on-one, actual in-person contact with each of these computers to fix it, to make this go away, to recover it. And so Microsoft actually released a recovery tool that was a bootable USB drive. That's how serious this was.
I'm sorry, but you know what? If you're going to go with that solution, why don't we release a solution for this problem where we're going to chisel the update into stone tablets, and then we'll have albatrosses and carrier pigeons just drag them across the U.S., and that's how we'll fix this problem. I was like, USB drives, that's the only way to fix this? Is that how outdated this whole setup is? Like, there's no way to...
I just hope it was an OWC Envoy Pro Mini. That's all I'm saying. If you guys need a USB for your CrowdStrike recovery, we've got you covered, dude.
That's right. We now have a CrowdStrike discount right now. Yeah.
Not really. Don't go looking for that on our website.
No,
please don't do that.
No, and no, we are not making light of the negative that has happened here and everybody affected by the situation. But at the same time, humor is the release valve that brings relief when stuff like this happens. And so,
just a huge economic calamity. Though.
One thing I have to say is, I was happy to see that somebody finally did this right here.
Right. Well, this was a given. So
yes, I mean,
this isn't real. This didn't happen, but
it's not real. But like we've talked about before, if we want to see anything anywhere, we'd all like to see whatever it is on the sphere first.
On that,
and foremost.
It showed up in plenty of other really interesting places. I mean, apart from just like the airport, like there were lots of pictures and stuff out there on social media floating around of like hotels that have like digitized, or conference centers that have like digitized the columns and other kind of like architectural features of things. Blue screened columns, blue screened ceilings, all kinds of blue screens.
I'm sure that this is a whole bunch of people's Zoom backgrounds too for meetings. I'm sure. Yeah, it's got to be.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
So anyway,
I don't know, man. I wonder how many people got out of work over the last like week just using CrowdStrike as an excuse. Well,
I think for everybody that got out of work, there was 25 IT people that had to go back into work over the weekend, most likely.
For sure. For sure. The economic, now, like to wrap this whole thing up, it's going to be interesting after CEO George Kurtz, after he testifies before Congress. It's going to be really interesting to see and then someone's going to run the numbers, if they haven't already, I don't know, about what the economic impact of this was, because thousands upon thousands of flights delayed, which means that thousands upon thousands of people couldn't get to wherever they were going.
Yeah.
The IT hours on top of everything else, just absolutely crazy that they pushed an update that wasn't verified.
Well, think about the rippling effect on the tourism industry.
Oh yeah.
Like in other countries. So people traveling to from one country to another, all of a sudden that gets halted, and now hotels are getting canceled, which means there's revenue drops across multiple hotels, beaches, concessions. I mean, people that paid money to get to the airport, there's just all kinds it's a mess. It's basically a complete disaster. But it did remind me how important it is for me to eventually buy some land and build like an emergency military bunker, and fill it with food and stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, how many, to the counterpoint to the economic impact with this would be how many preppers did it create?
Right. Exactly. So maybe sporting goods stores are now killing it, REI stock price went up like 8 million points, just because of this. Oh my gosh. Good times. Well, so hey, moving on to the next thing, let's go from calamity to just some normal kind of camera industry news here. We have some news in the Nikon world. So basically, I think it was back in March, maybe. Nikon acquired Red, which is big news in the camera industry. Red has always been this amazing, creative, fantastic sort of lone wolf in the camera industry. I remember the first video that I saw come out that was shot on a Red was a skateboard video, and they were showing off all the high-speed capabilities, and the color was incredible, but it was like tons of slow-mo skate tricks in these really big, vast areas, like in an urban environment, and it was really, really freaking cool. And then after that, it's just been all gravy for Red as far as the technology and the stuff they're pulling off. And so Nikon, who's been known for having amazing cameras, but mostly in the world of still photography, started to bolt on video. I felt like, I've been a Canon guy most of my life for stills, and then a Panasonic guy for video. But
Yeah.
Nikon finally started to catch up, and then when they acquired Red, I was like, game over. They just bought like the masterpiece of video now, as far as like professional video is concerned. So pretty cool to see. So in
the
this
top
new,
name in cinema cameras, for sure.
Exactly. And so they're basically now there's some news here. They're going to start incorporating some of what's it called, red color science or something like that into this.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, they're what they kind of announced was, and I think some of the news is kind of extrapolating out based on what President of Nikon Tokunari said just the other day. But basically, that what we didn't know when Nikon bought Red was like, okay, is Nikon going to continue to let Red live on its own awesome island and kind of, and that still might be true. What wasn't kind of completely clear after that was, okay, how is this going to impact Red products? But is there a potential for the Red technology to bleed over into Nikon stuff? And so like that's basically what he said, is that they are going to start implementing Red technology and R&D stuff into the Nikon stuff. So you could actually like maybe even have as you're applying whatever your kind of like Sony calls them picture profiles. I'm not sure what Nikon calls it in terms of like, being able to apply certain color profiles, but eventually it looks like you're going to be able to use Red color profiles on your Nikon camera, which is amazing.
That
amazing
is incredible.
news.
Yeah. And one of the things that Nikon really has had some catching up to do, and this is going to help them, I think, is there's always been a gap in the prosumer video side of things for Nikon. Canon certainly has caught up there. You have the Panasonic GH5, GH4, that whole series has been great. And then now, and Sony, obviously, with the amazing A7 stuff and all that, Nikon finally has an opportunity to get a leg up in a really interesting way. So it'll be cool to kind of see how this develops, over time.
Ooh, develops. Nice pun. Pun points.
But bumped. Ladies and gentlemen, Rich Harris. So everybody clap. Okay. I just announced to myself.
Listen. We're not going to discourage puns on my show. Not on my show. On my show, we get to do all the puns we want. And
you get points. You get participation trophies. Participation trophies. You get everything. Yeah, gold stars.
Yeah,
we'll give you a Starbucks card for the best pun. So that's coming.
Leave us a comment. What should we call the dad joke / pun points or whatever, and we'll get on that and implement it into the show right away.
Yeah. Seeing how much gray is showing up in my facial hair now, we're gonna have a lot more dad jokes coming at you, I'm pretty sure. So, all right. Well, hey, let's move on to the next topic. One that nobody is ever talking about ever on the internet ever.
Not nearly enough, dude. Not nearly enough.
I mean, I have to search the farthest corners of the web to find any information about this, but AI. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. AI. Whoa.
AI. Artificial intelligence? Is that what that means, right?
I think so. I mean, Apple would like it to think that it means Apple intelligence, but,
Such a clean segue, Rich. How did you, right into Apple intelligence. Didn't we write a blog post about that? Or didn't I write a blog post about that we can pull up here?
I believe you did. Yes.
It's almost like we have a script. So let's talk about the current state of AI, because actually it's like we've seen a lot of like headlines here in the last several weeks that have been really, really interesting as like where we are. It's a nice little microcosm of where we are and the state of this stuff. And so like obviously Apple introduced what it's going to do on the iPhone, the Mac, and the iPad. It's called Apple Intelligence because you didn't think that they were just going to say, you know what, AI is good enough for us. No, Apple Intelligence is Apple's AI. And really the key to kind of understanding this is that it is system-wide AI. So Apple is, basically they're going to try to make good on the promise that I guess Siri has held and failed to hold over the last several years, and kind of underpin the operating system itself with kind of context. And so there's going to be contextual on machine, on device learning. But they've also developed a secure cloud kind of like server using their M series chips, so that they're going to do as much as they can on device for privacy purposes. And then when they absolutely need to, they'll push certain requests to the cloud. And then obviously too, there's also kind of like hooks for other AI services like ChatGPT. And so those things would obviously be handled off device as well, but you would have to kind of give your permission to do that. So Apple's version of AI really is all about kind of like, hey, dingus, when does my mom's flight land? It's stuff like that. It's supposed to help you move throughout your day, answer questions that Google can't answer, that other things can't answer unless it had kind of like a really deep understanding of you based on kind of like what you're doing on your personal devices like your phone.
Yeah, which is, and so there's a fine line there too. What's appropriate and what isn't, big time. It's like I think it would be great to be able to just like say something like that to my phone, and it can go crawl through like your appointments and your calendars, and if there's like a flight coming in or something like that. There's that fine line though of like, oh, I also have like secured health apps on my phone too that are connected to the website for my healthcare provider. Have all my history and stuff like that. It's like, do I want to be able to just talk to my phone and dig up all my deepest, darkest secrets about the, treacherous ingrown toenail that I've been having for the last 6 months? I mean,
you're telling me you haven't signed that stuff over already, man?
I know.
Golly.
Well, I do.
I was like, my health data. Yeah, I don't want that. Who cares? Like,
right. I mean, I do physically send 2 tubes of my blood to Apple every month, just so they can have it.
That's that checkbox. That's that Siri checkbox where it's like, Siri wants to know more. Will you help out? Will you pitch in? And it's like, I didn't know that. Apparently, when you click that box, you just get the vials in the mail, and then you go ahead and.
That's right. They sequence your DNA and start building a database version of you on the fly. Yeah.
So, long story short, this thing is going to be good. Like, just wait until you get your hands on Apple Intelligence, dude. It's going to be good. And then, Microsoft is also obviously, they're doing a lot of really exciting stuff. The new Copilot PCs that are kind of matriculating now. They're using AI also as part of the operating system to kind of honestly bridge some of the gaps that have grown, but because of Apple's awesome M series silicon, Microsoft is using AI within Windows to kind of increase performance, which is a really interesting kind of way to go about things in terms of AI. And then also they're building in ChatGPT. They're a big investor. Now you've got Apple and Microsoft as investors in ChatGPT and OpenAI. And recently they were both going to have like observer seats on the board, and that got nixed because now there's an antitrust investigation where they were like, no, we didn't want to do that anyway. Yeah,
they're all
super
like,
interesting times.
You can see all these companies, they come out with an idea and they go big and double down on it in the news, and then they get blasted, and then they're like, oh, wait. I mean, what I meant was, wait.
I don't want a board observer seat. Who said we needed a board observer seat? What a stupid idea.
Yeah,
never mind.
Who came up with that? That was lame.
Well, and I was actually listening to the Scott Galloway, his podcast, Prof G podcast.
I love that guy. Yeah,
dude, Scott. Shout out to two big fans here. One of the things that he really made a good point about is it's like, the way that boards work, it's not the same. It's not like in Succession where like everybody talks about it and argues for 3 days and then they have a vote. That's not typically the way these boardrooms work. They typically talk until there's a consensus, and then they just go with whatever the consensus is. If you've got Microsoft and Apple sitting in on board meetings at OpenAI and they're like, well, I think that's a stupid idea. Like, what do you think everyone else is going to say? Like, do you think that, like, if they're actually weighing in, like, people are going to, like, argue with with Apple and Microsoft. Like, so definitely a warranted thing that whenever those two started saying, okay, yeah, we want to be in the room too during your meetings, that, you know, the government was kind of like, whoa, hold on a second.
Yeah.
So, and then you kind of see why that's happening too. Let's pull up this article about the Samsung Galaxy Fold 6 and what's going on with it.
Yeah, so this is pretty amazing, and so now we're going to switch from kind of the larger enterprise effort going on with AI, integrating it into all of our lives, and now kind of just down to the more consumer level stuff. This is pretty amazing. The Galaxy the Z Fold 6's kind of sketch to image tools. It is ridiculous, fun, and slightly worrying, just like the headline says. But like just to start, as far as like stuff that is pretty cool, like I think it's cool for like some conceptual design ideas. It's cool for kids and teenagers to, you know, kick some fun around, which is always cool with me. So in one example here, you have somebody that basically, you know, you wanted to drop a cat in the middle of an intersection, and while the proportions make this thing look a little bit ridiculous, I mean, if you look at the AI result here, I mean, it got the shadows right. It basically took in information about where the light source is and the sun, and put this on the street pretty easily, you know. And it's almost like you can create your own version of AR stuff with this too. Like,
it's
kind of trippy.
It definitely, and I think that's kind of, so this Verge article, which we'll put in the show notes. We have show notes, right? Yeah, well, I mean, these are basically, it's what we basically have here. Anyway, we'll put this in the show notes, but it's like Rich said, it's a giant cat in the middle of like a city intersection. And it looks good. I mean, like, again, like Rich said, it's kind of like, it's not necessarily convincing. But, you know, this used to take some work, like in Photoshop, to do. And now it's like a crude drawing away, because Samsung has basically... And this is kind of like where Samsung and Apple, reliably, if there's anything reliable, it's that Samsung is going to go like head first, like into a new feature, like full bore, let's go. And Apple's going to like, well, hold on a second, let us think about this and think about how we want to do it. All of Apple's new image generation stuff with Apple Intelligence makes cartoony looking things that you would not, you know, confused for reality. They're steering away from controversy. Samsung's kind of take on this is realism. And so like in this article, there's a photograph of some flowers. It's a really pretty kind of like landscape shot. Some flowers in front of a port. And so they crudely drew a bee on one of these out of focus flowers. And so Samsung's tool has, hey Rich, we're gonna need to can we stop, or we're gonna have to edit all this out?
We'll edit it out.
UPS guy is coming to the door, and so my dog is gonna act like, you know, he's never seen this person in his life. It's not like he's here. It's not like the UPS guy's not here, you know, every day of the week.
I know. There's actually a funny meme going around. I'm not even sure we have to edit this out, to be honest with you. It's kind of funny.
No.
But...
Why do it?
Right. My dogs, same crap. I'm like, hey, you've seen somebody deliver groceries to our house 85 times a week. I don't know why it's new now, right? Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like, have any of these people ever even tried the door? Like,
right?
Like, no, not a single time. Not a single time. No, they come up to the door, they leave something next to the door, and then they leave.
Exactly.
So okay, he's gone now. So they've crudely drawn a bee on a photo of this like little landscape near a port, and you know what's impressive about it is that Samsung's AI thing has put an honest to God real looking bee where the crude drawing used to be. So it's basically like the drawing is saying, hey, I would like to put a bee on this photo, and it did it, and the bee is out of focus just like the flowers. It is.
Yeah.
If someone showed this photo to you, you'd be like, wow, great timing. I mean, it's out of focus, but like that's crazy that you caught this bumblebee lighting on a flower.
Yeah.
And I think we can all agree, like, that's cool, but like, do we want that? Like, do we want this? Like,
I think
I don't
that to
think
me
we
just
do.
seems like something that you would want to you'd want to use to entertain children. You know, like,
Sure.
I don't know, like, look, kids, here, let's go. What happens? I mean, yeah, you just drew a bee on a flower. What if I drew like a little car on the flower? Like, what's it gonna do with that? You know, like, my brain automatically is going to places like, what if we put like a giant milkshake with robot arms on the flower? Like, what's that gonna
Yeah.
look like?
These are really good ideas, and now I'm starting to rethink my position on this because I want to see the car. I want to see the car on the flower. What kind of a car are we talking about? Like, when you draw the car, a crudely shaped car, what's it going to go with? Is it going to go with like a Buick or like
I was
what's
thinking,
going on the flower?
maybe like a '72 Lincoln Continental, something like that. You know.
See, and that's if it truly understands you, then it's going to know. Rich is going to want that '72 Lincoln Continental, man. It's
I mean, is it
go,
gonna put like little wings on it and stuff, and like, is it gonna look
well,
like
how else was it going to get there?
will it look like the Bumblebee Transformer toy? You know, who knows? If you have a Beetle.
I take
Anyway.
everything I said back. This is great. No notes.
That's good.
Keep on going, Samsung.
So speaking of other things AI can do, a lot of us have used AI to create stuff, and besides like photos and stuff. So there was another tool, an app created by Figma that kind of got their hands slapped by the almighty Apple. Basically, Figma is an app that what does it do again? It like allows you to create
Figma, yes.
Yeah.
Figma is a design app. So like it's kind of like Canva, but Canva is like Figma with kid gloves. So everything is inside of Canva. Figma is like the actual professional tool of the design world, because it allows for collaborative work and stuff like that. And so, you know, everybody's got to have an AI feature in their app.
Right.
And so, and Figma is not, exempt from this requirement, apparently, especially after they were acquired by Adobe. Of course. So Adobe's got a bunch of like really useful AI features, of course, like in Photoshop that are doing like generative fill, and then also kind of you can up resolution photos and you can remove noise with AI. Really useful stuff. And then Figma's idea was like, hey, it's kind of like you said earlier, using it for inspiration. So I'm designing a weather app. Go ahead and design what you think a good weather app would look like, Figma. And so then Figma will give you a complete design of what it thinks a weather app. I assume that this is done as like, here's your starting point, tweak away, kind of, this is what the layout should look like. Here's, what you should deliver it as, all that good stuff. The problem is that Figma's, when someone said, hey, make me a weather app to this Figma AI feature, it's called Make Design. It just like basically recreated the Apple stock weather app. And it's like, what is the point of that?
Yeah.
And I think, obviously what people noticed was that like, holy crap, this looks just like the Apple weather app. And so like now they've had to come in and temporarily disable it. And I guess until they figure out how to get it to like not rip off designs. But like, if you stop and think about it, like think about the bee issue, right? So what did the AI do there? It's like, okay, you're telling me you're drawing a bee and you want me to make the bee look real. Well, it's going to rip off what a real bee looks like. It's going to do it really well, but it's like, that's the same thing. Like, okay, make me a weather app. And it's like, what's the most popular weather app? Like by far, what is probably the most popular? When you think of a weather app, what are you thinking of? It's probably that stock Apple weather app. Yep. And that's all the AI did, is it went and got like a really popular design for a weather app. And to be honest, like if you look at any weather app, I mean, they all kind of are derivative of that one. So this was kind of a silly story to me, because like, yes, it's like, but what did you expect? What did you think was going to happen?
Right. Exactly. I mean, their app is only just taking input that to itself makes sense to reference. That's all it's going to do. It's not going to be like, let me go pull together some ideas for you, but I'll make sure that I avoid things for cease and desist reasons and, some other. I mean, it's not going to think like that. It's just going to go look for ideas, so.
Figma AI probably thinks it did a really good job. I mean, and then if I'm being honest, yeah, that's a weather app.
Yeah.
It's got, clouds and little moon, and it's got the days of the week and weather app.
Exactly.
I don't really know what they wanted, but now they've had to disable it because they figured out that every AI creation is derivative of something that a person made, and it's kind of like that's literally what artificial intelligence is.
Exactly.
Like it. So, yeah. I mean, it's super useful, but you can kind of see like the things that we need to work on, and
right.
I think that if anything else, this is like hey guys, like let's stop just like cramming AI in if we don't have like a really good idea behind it. And unfortunately, that's a lot of companies right now.
Right. Well, let's move on to the last article that we'll kick around here regarding AI. So this is very new news. I think it just came out today. So OpenAI announces that SearchGPT, its own AI-powered search engine, it's going to be going into a beta or prototype coming out. Is it available to the public? Let's see here.
It's not yet. There's a wait list available right now. It's only going to 10,000 users. I think that a lot of the people that are subscribing to ChatGPT are getting, maybe they're getting like 10,000 test users. I think they might be getting getting earlier in the wait list line. But yeah, this is going to be OpenAI's first official challenge to Google.
The first thought that I came across was like, if Google is a competitor, right? They're the ones though that essentially house more data from the internet than anybody else. So they definitely have a leg up on being able to give you the most comprehensive experience when they finally are able to release their own version of an AI search engine. So my question for these guys was like, where are you going to get that much data? Where are you going to scrape it from, without getting blocked or blacklisted from, Google's systems to be able to come up with like enough answers that are interesting and actually make this tool useful? Like how could you possibly be competitive against Google in this space, the search space in particular? You know what I mean?
Well, and Google doesn't have an answer for that, really. Google's still, everybody's, all of the publishers, and Google's been doing that for a while, right? So the AMP links, that is still kind of like a huge debacle where they were basically like, hey, we're going to scrape your website and we're not going to like send traffic to you. We're going to send traffic to us and it's going to look like your website, but remember, it's not your website. And so they kind of just did that. And they asked for permission from some major publishers, the Wall Street Journals, the New York Times of the world, and stuff like that. But for the most part, they basically just did whatever they wanted, and then they had to walk it back because it remains a less than good experience. It's still bad, and it was supposed to speed up the web, turbocharge the web, or whatever. But like this, it looks like OpenAI has kind of like learned from, because when Google basically was like, oh crap, and then released all of their AI stuff in response to ChatGPT, and they just like crammed it at the top of a search window. Also something that the majority of people don't want and have kind of like said, hey, this is not a good experience. They've kind of learned from all of that. And, again, OpenAI stuff is very self-contained. It's self-contained in the sense that if I'm going to ChatGPT to ask something or to get a prompt or put something in or generate something, I have to go to ChatGPT specifically unless it's kind of like integrated with a partner app. But this is definitely going to be interesting. I mean, they're showing. I'm not super excited. I'm excited to try it. I think it'll be cool. But like, just based on the new accuracy and functionality of the 4.0 model. The 4.0 model is really, really cool. You can ask some pretty complex questions and get some great answers. And so extending that to search sounds good, but like what I'm seeing from this initial, here's some examples, it was like concert tickets and events. I was like, oh. And I think that some of this stuff is just because that's just the stuff that people look up. And
I
at
mean,
the
I
end
don't
of the
know.
day,
I kind of feel like I'm
yeah,
already getting this kind of experience for the most
but not
part from
good.
Google, but just not as good.
Right.
And the way that it extends out and also gives you other fields to ask more follow-up questions, but within the context of your initial request.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's cool. I can definitely see people wasting a lot more time drilling down like crazy trying to research everything and fact check each other on the internet. But other than that, I mean, this could definitely be the ultimate tool for trolls who like to correct everybody in comment threads on everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And to your point on the kind of like we're already kind of getting this. I mean, we are a lot of people that are looking at Google and kind of like shaking their head right now is just like get your ads. Like 3/4 of the page now on a Google search is either AI that doesn't make any sense or ads that we don't want to see. And so that would be refreshing to kind of get rid of that. But it's like I Google's main core product, which was the search product, has really kind of gone undeveloped for a really long time. So if there's anything that I hope comes out of this SearchGPT thing is that I'm rooting for somebody to like challenge Google in such a way that they actually start losing traffic and start having to improve their search and start develop their search product again, because we badly need competition in that space for sure.
Yeah. Honestly though, good luck with that. Like everything that's gonna like Google has a knack for looking 5 to 10 years out. They're just that's where their sweet spot is. In search,
right?
You're poking a big bear, trying to get into that space. Because if Google decides, hey, this is now a priority, they will literally steer their entire multi-billion-dollar ship almost overnight to start battling you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So
and OpenAI hasn't really made it clear. They charge subscriptions, which aren't cheap, for like the plus model, like the 4.0 plus model, and some of the image generation stuff. And so they're making money that way right now. And there's a lot of people that are really happy paying that money. And if you go in, it looks like Google, like look at this kind of search GPT thing that's on the screen right now. It's literally the word search GPT and then a text box. Like that's what Google used to look like. It's like in the days of yore, whenever
I'm waiting for them to like change the font color to like multiple colors. And eventually it'll be using Open Sans font, and then it'll be game over after that. It'll be like, wait, who am I actually searching on right now? I don't even know what's going on.
But if they reach scale on this, like how they're gonna monetize it is also the question. Because like if it's kind of like on Threads right now, with like everybody's waiting for Threads to get ads at some point injected in. Usually that's the way it goes. If my hope is that OpenAI can kind of figure out a way to kind of actually monetize without making the product worse. It's yet to be seen though.
Yep. Well, so that kind of begs the question. So, when we're talking about creatives, I mean, we all know I have strong feelings about this, but is AI good for creatives? Yes, no. If so, how? Or no, not at all. My thoughts are, as a creative myself who is into the music side of things, I feel like I could use AI music tools as a source of inspiration for maybe some sound loops and stuff like that. But that's all I would use it for music, because I'm a musician and I hear sounds in my head that I haven't played yet on an instrument, because that's just what I do. It's who I am. And I suspect that's the same type of situation for visual artists. Maybe you're a painter. You see a thing before you've actually painted it. Now you're going to go do it or whatever. People that write books, it's like you're pulling these abstract concepts out of your mind and you're going to go write a book about it. That's not something that an AI machine would just randomly decide to do one day and do a great job of it, and also be able to all of a sudden pivot in different directions based on human inspiration and stuff like that. So I have to say that like somebody who's never been an artist type, I think that it's okay for anybody to have fun with these tools for sure, but do not set up an Instagram account with a bunch of just AI generated images because you're really good at prompting and then call yourself an artist. I just don't.
Yeah.
Those are not the same thing. You're good at typing text and then continuing to type text to steer, the result in a certain direction. Well, good for you. I mean, we can do that with other things too. If I keep adding different types of food to my smoothie, great. It's just going to turn into a different kind of smoothie. That doesn't mean that I'm a chef. That doesn't mean that I understand smoothies at a level that, somebody who's been working with food forever does. It's like, I just don't think that we can lean on it for that. It's not a replacement.
Then, giving it some time, I'm hoping that things will get more back into the flow of like, these are tools. They're another tool in the tool belt or another color on the palette type of a thing. And I mean, right now, I think most creatives kind of look at a lot of this stuff. There are, like I said, I mentioned, for me personally, I use the DxO denoise tool, and it is that makes me very happy every time that I use it, because I've been able to rescue some extremely highly noisy photos using that tool. The resolution that it adds, it can literally transform raw files in a huge way. So like there are some of the generative fill features, stuff like that we're seeing in Photoshop. All of that stuff is very exciting. It's also, you could still argue that it's concerning because you're altering reality in a way that, yes, it was possible, but it used to be very difficult. And in a lot of ways, the guardrails and the kind of like resistance that the steps in the process provided were enough to keep most people from even attempting to do it. But now when it's becoming just as easy as like typing a prompt in to create like a deep fake or something that is, like really ethically, not even ambiguous, just ethically like warning signs.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Wrong.
Yeah.
That's a good word. Wrong. I think that's where, I think that there's a certain, it took my daughter to the art museum recently, and it was really interesting seeing her, because like what we like to do is like, I always try to like, whenever we're looking at something that is, very like abstract, typically it's kind of like, what are you thinking? Like, what do you think this is about? Or like, here, this is the name of it. Like, what does that make you think about? And I think a lot of that is to kind of spur on those ethical conversations, like right versus wrong, like what's happening in this piece right here. And I think that that's art, man. Like that's anything that we consume, we should really try to consume as much as we can that is like making us like consider those questions and consider alternate viewpoints or opposing viewpoints and stuff like that. And stuff that just kind of like fakes reality. All that does is confuse.
Yeah.
It's not.
I'm just not down with that stuff. And like creatively, one thing I have seen visual artists, people in film, photo, design, they'll use these visual tools to inspire them. So like if I had a friend who does set design and lighting design for like stage sets, right, for theater, musical, stuff like that. So they might feed it an image of a stage, and then they'll say, give me lighting ideas that are kind of noir, maybe with splashes of red light in there. And then they'll like regen it, like 10, 15 times, and then like, oh, that's actually kind of a cool idea. And they'll take like a portion of one of those results, but then they will actually, with practical lighting on a real stage, with their hands and their expertise, actually create something based on those inspirations. And I, like I said, with music, same thing. I've used some of these AI tools to see what kind of music they generate. When you're like, I want it to be heavy metal with loud drums and have a cello in there too, or whatever. It gives you some really wonky, aimless kind of music, if you will, that just doesn't really repeat ever and just kind of goes all over the place. But I've found little sections and changes in there where I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool if it went from, A minor to E, and then you did this thing. I actually have pulled those levels of ideas out of the AI stuff, even though the AI machine doesn't even really know what it's doing. But so there is inspirational
the collaborative aspect where it's like it's artificial, but it's still kind of like bringing a collaborative aspect to the project and to the work. I mean, like the first time I play guitar and me and my friends would play together as kind of like a quote unquote band every once in a while. I remember the first time as a teenager that I played with other people, and just some of the stuff that we immediately created together the first time we were playing. And sometimes it gels like that and sometimes it doesn't. The fact that we knew each other really well definitely helped. But I was like, dude, for me, like if I start playing something and then like my buddy who played drums, whenever he would start in on it, it would immediately create new things in my head. I was like, that tempo. I'd never even thought of that tempo with this song before. And so you find those ways that, and I think in that way, that is the best case scenario for AI, is to be kind of like a collaborator. With
it can kind of jog.
You're still steering.
Yeah, it'll jog your brain in ways that maybe you didn't think of earlier, and that kind of thing. I'm all about it. But I went from being somebody who was never an artist, never cared about art, and now because I can just type, 2 words in Mid-Journey, all of a sudden I'm this like well-known artist. It kind of reminded me of Exit from the Gift Shop. Have you ever seen that? About Banksy? So that's a movie about Banksy, the artist. And it's basically about how this other person, figuratively and symbolically, could represent AI. And he basically started taking a bunch of Banksy's street art ideas and doing them himself. And he ended up, because he was so into the rock stardom of being a well-known artist or whatever, he was putting himself out there, claiming things to be his, blah, 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 where Banksy is always just about the message he's putting out. He doesn't really care about all the attention, the wrong kind of attention. But you should watch Exit from the Gift Shop. It's amazing, and it actually, like I said, kind of figuratively applies to this almost, where it's like real artist versus some BS. So,
dude.
Anyhow, let's move on to the next segment here. So let's get back into the other geekdom here, which is Mac hardware. Recently you picked up a brand new M4 iPad Pro. You're a DaVinci Resolve user like me. Yeah. Awesome. I knew that we were connected in deep, meaningful ways.
Yes. That's how I know to trust somebody.
Do you edit in DaVinci?
Just how my wife and I met. She's also a DaVinci user. No.
That's how I knew that dog at the kennel was the dog for me, because it also edited with DaVinci. It was amazing.
In DaVinci, his NLE of choice. And I said, "What's this dog's NLE of choice?" And the lady at the pound was like, "DaVinci." And I was like, "Let's go." Get him in the car.
That's right. It's a whole kennel full of video editing dogs. Yeah, it's perfect. So anyway, you invested in an iPad Pro just to see how far you could get editing video in DaVinci natively with this M4 iPad Pro, and also having finally some external storage device support. So maybe let me know, like, what were your expectations going in, and what were you hoping to get out of it, and kind of the results, the good, bad, the ugly.
Well, so like before we started recording, we were talking about my time whenever I was working as a journalist. I mean, like, but the thing is like I have always been an Apple fanboy for sure, and so I love all the different devices. I have a place, honestly, in my workflow for just about every Apple device: the phone, the Mac, the iPad. And so like I'm a longtime longtime iPad user specifically. I am one of the weirdos who like actually really likes iPad OS, and I'm not saying it's perfect. So my expectations going in were, I was excited to see like, is it really that much thinner and lighter than the previous generation M2, which I had? So I upgraded directly from the previous generation, the M2, and I was excited to see kind of like, there were things with iPad OS where they were performance issues, where like Apple has still not put a lot of RAM into the iPad, and so it's, even recent generations like 4 gigabytes, 8 gigabytes of RAM. It's a very capable operating system, but like I was excited to see with the M4 the performance increase, because this was, I don't know if it's the only one, but it's one of very few iPads that where Apple announced. Typically the iPhone used to be the one where they would announce the processor, and that would be, and then the iPad would get like a version of that processor.
Right.
When they moved to the M series, the Mac would get the processor first, and then the iPad Pro would get it later. This is the first iPad Pro, I think, that had dedicated M series silicon in the M4. And they had to use it because of this new dual OLED display that's in it. So I was excited to see, how good this OLED display was as well. And so, the results have been that display is ridiculous. It is fantastic. It's super bright. If you like to use your iPad outside, I'm not one of those people. I think that every device I own goes thermonuclear as soon as I go outside. I live in Alabama though, where it's like the seventh circle of hell in terms of the heat that we have. So like,
yeah,
I'm not outside like lounging with my iPad in the hammock very, very often, but like the display is fantastic. I think this is probably the first iPad where you can comfortably work outside because of the screen brightness and how detailed everything is. The hardware itself, I've got the 11-inch. I think that's kind of the perfect size. It is super thin, less than a pound. So that stuff does come through, only 5.3 millimeters thick. It's a beautiful device, man. It's been a beautiful device for a long time. I wouldn't say, if you're coming from an M2, coming from anything else, I think you're going to be really happy. But if you're coming from the M2, I don't know that it's necessarily worth the upgrade. If you're in the market and you're like, wow, I can get this M2 for, pretty cheap, maybe $500, $600, I would say that it's pretty much the same experience.
Yeah.
But where the differences with the M4 come in, to me, are on the multitasking with Stage Manager and some of the shortcomings within iPad OS itself. It really kind of covers up some of iPad OS 17's messiness, for lack of a better word.
What about the keyboard situation that you are using in this?
So like the new Magic Keyboard, still expensive. I think $349, $329, $349, something like that. I would say there are really good options if you don't want to spend $350 on a keyboard. Logitech makes a really good one. My only thing with those is that I like using my iPad as a tablet a lot. I like being able to immediately just take it out of there. This new Magic Keyboard, though, I think is worth the money. I wish that they would move on from that rubber exterior, but they finally put an aluminum top on the keyboard. The keys feel just like a MacBook Pro. Same keyboard there, a little bit smaller because I have the 11-inch, but highly recommend the new Magic Keyboard. If you really want your typing experience to mimic your MacBook Air or MacBook Pro, I mean, it's a no-brainer. On the Magic Keyboard, it's a fan. That adding the aluminum on top, they should have done it a while ago for sure.
Yeah. And then what about the support for external storage devices in the operating system?
Yeah. So like I'll also talk a little bit about just kind of like the software in general too. So like obviously iPad OS has supported external storage and plugging in through the Files app. Apple, please, if nothing else on the Mac front, like Finder is fantastic on the Mac. Like make Files better. Like Files as an app is I won't go all the way and say it's broken on iPhone and iPad, but like we need more of like a true Finder replacement on the iPad.
I can't stand like any of the mobile OS file browser stuff.
Oh, they're all terrible.
It's awful. Like I avoid saving anything into that like the plague because I can never remember where I put things. It's not a good experience. It feels like I was thrown into like an Android user experience when I'm doing the whole like files on a mobile device thing, and not cool. I feel like Apple could do better at making that an easier experience.
It is really weird how the Files app has basically not changed since it was first put out on the iPhone. And so the external storage support is there. It works. Some of the nice things about it is you don't have to like wait for it to mount. It mounts immediately. You don't have to like eject it. You can just kind of like pull out the cord from your USB-C port without kind of any kind of worry. But like iPad OS itself is still iPad OS, and I've seen like I think like 90% of the reviews of this device that came out were like, the M4 iPad is fantastic hardware, but it's still an iPad because it's running iPad OS. And for the most part, like that's true. But I would argue that the M4 again covers up a lot of the encumbrances that iPad OS presents you with. Some of the messiness with Stage Manager, some of the multitasking slowness and slowdowns. But if you're like, I tried to do real work, or I tried to use it as my couch computer in my day-to-day, and I just don't like Stage Manager. Well, Stage Manager is still a thing.
Can't stand Stage Manager. Yeah, it throws me off all the time when I'm doing stuff on my iMac, and I'm trying to go back and forth between audio editing, other things, grabbing lyrics, grabbing other WAV file samples to drag into my audio projects and stuff too, and Stage Manager keeps trying to... Stage Manager's gonna Stage Manager, right? So
it really is.
It's gonna like,
and it feels like that's the whole point. That's really the whole point with Stage Manager. It's like, hey, what if we could let you do window management on an iPad?
Yeah.
But it was like somebody was standing over your shoulder, going, "Don't put that there. That goes here."
Yeah. I know. I feel like
you're not allowed to put that there.
I feel like my parents are like looking over my shoulder, telling me how to use a personal computer right now. You know, like, oh, no, son, it goes over there. That's
the logic doesn't make sense. So, like, it in theory, like the app pairings and keeping everything, when it works really well. But then as soon as like something's going on, like there was a really great Snazzy Q from YouTube. He put up a short recently talking about like he had his iPad Pro M4 connected to a studio display, and he was trying to like figure out like, on the studio display, how do I add a second instance or a second window for this same app? Right. And it was like it was a comedy of errors. I mean, it was just like a farce of like, I tried this and that didn't work, so I tried this and that didn't work, and I tried. It shouldn't be that hard. And then come to find out, like the difference is on the iPad, it gave you the option to add the second window, but for some reason, if you have it in external display mode, it won't. So all of that to say, wrapping up this section, is that iPad OS is still iPad OS. I really hope that they will eventually fix some of this stuff. But like, at the end of the day, yes, it can. I would argue it can be a laptop replacement, but I would think that you're going to have more fun going in if you're like, nah, actually, I don't want it to replace my laptop. I just want it to be an iPad.
Right.
And if you go in with that mindset, I think that you'll really like it. Even though there are a lot of cases where I sometimes wish, like, man, I wish this was as smooth as it is on the Mac, but that's just not where we are right now.
True that. Well, hey, we're going to start bringing this episode to a close of
wait, actually, before we go, I did want to mention DaVinci Resolve, because we mentioned DaVinci Resolve. Yeah. So in terms of like using DaVinci Resolve, I feel like, so Final Cut Pro for iPad 2, terrible name. Final Cut Pro for iPad 2 is adding external storage support in that next version that's still coming. DaVinci Resolve already has it. So because it already has it, that's what got me to try DaVinci Resolve in the first place. And so DaVinci also has just fantastic color grading tools and everything else. My experience using DaVinci between the iPad and the Mac has been phenomenal. DaVinci basically just, Blackmagic has completely just moved the code base for the Mac app and dropped it onto the iPad. So there's some iPad UI elements and stuff to make more contextual
more friendly
sense.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much the same app as you have on the Mac. And in terms of like going between the two, there's some weirdness with how that works. It works better one way going from Mac to iPad, maybe, or iPad to Mac. I can't remember which one it is with Final Cut Pro. With DaVinci Resolve, though, it's pretty much the same experience going both ways, which is super smooth. Like, DaVinci is so good at like remembering where all your assets are, linking them together, all of that good stuff. And so basically, it's the same app. you export your project onto your external storage. The one that I use is this awesome little Envoy Electron. This is a 4 terabyte drive, and it runs at like a steady 900 megabytes per second. It's good up to like 6K, even some 8K footage. I shoot mostly in 4K. And so I export my project to that. If I want to edit a timeline on my iPad, I pull it up. I import that project. I link the media. It does it in like 2 seconds. I just point it to the folder, and I'm off to the races. And like the M4 acquits itself very, very well. The M4 just does a fantastic job. It just chews through media. I'm usually editing .mov files straight off the camera from my Sony A7 IV, but it would run even. I can't even say it would run even smoother if you were doing like ProRes or something like that. But like, it's impressive. Like that's when you see the promise of the iPad Pro is like, I'm comfy on the couch, or maybe I'm outside in the hammock if it wasn't so hot outside, editing my timeline or editing a podcast, and then export. I think I exported a 15-minute video here recently in about 4 minutes. So it's fast. It's fast. Yeah. The M4 is a great chip. They just iPad OS needs to catch up.
Yep, for sure. Well, cool. Well, that's promising. When I know when they released Final Cut for the iPad, like the newer version, the latest version, maybe like last year, it's like I started out, my first NLE was Final Cut, and I liked it because it was so simple. It was like a nice, easy step up from iMovie if you want to learn how to do more stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then I checked it out on the iPad after using it on my Mac for a while, and it was definitely that was a tough experience. Like
for the longest time, Final Cut was if you had a Mac, and let's say you just didn't have a very powerful Mac. So Final Cut was my very first because I had I had the first 15-inch Retina display MacBook Pro. Yeah. And by the time I started editing video, the graphics that I had in that computer, nothing would run on it. Premiere ran like a dog on it. DaVinci wasn't even like an option. They've done a lot of really good stuff optimizing for M4 now, though, or for the M series. Yeah. But in the past, the only company optimizing for Macs when it came to NLEs was Apple, and Final Cut Pro would just run like a champ, on no matter what you were running it on. That's not the case anymore. Yeah, so
which is awesome. All right, now we've gone through the DaVinci section. Running out of time here, so we're gonna get to the most important part of this entire show, which is showing off the meme of the week. And let's see
meme
what
of the
we
week.
got here. Here we go. Let's see if I can get this guy.
I'm on pins and needles.
I know, right? Here we go. All right.
There it is.
It is. Boop. When photography is a hobby, what you look like versus when photography is livelihood. This meme is hilarious. Red Bulls definitely play a role. But I will say, and this is a extremely shameless OWC plug. One of the benefits to using our SSD drives, if you have to do a lot of editing, especially when you're on the road doing that kind of thing, is you will get sleep back. You might not have to drink as much Red Bull. So
yes,
just thought I'd throw that out
there. I have
there.
spent many nights at trade shows.
Oh, dude.
With SD cards, slow SD cards and slow backup storage. Literally just like looking at 2 hours and 45 minutes tick away on Finder. Yeah. And just knowing like, I'm not going to bed until like 4 a.m. tonight. Oh, yeah. And I have to be back at it at 7 a.m. for the trade show tomorrow.
And then as a freelancer, I would get hired to just go shoot a bunch of stuff, but then have to edit little social promos from the day before of the show so that they could put on social media the next day. And I remember running around the trade show floor, and every time I would hit that record button while I'm on the show floor, which is what I was getting paid to do, I was like, damn it. Now that means I'm going to have to eat some crappy room service, wait for 2 hours till I'm hungry again, eat some more, make sure that I'm fed so that I can stay awake, because I can see very clearly right now that I will be up until, like you said, 2 or 3, 4 a.m. And then I still have to prep for some kind of quick edit and send it off to somebody so that I could just sleep for maybe 3 hours, because the show floor for staff and exhibitors opens at 7:30 a.m. and you got to be back down there again. It's like, oh my goodness.
It sucks.
So how these people look down here in the bottom, that's the real deal. Yeah, this meme actually applies to a lot of people too in these fields.
The creator of this meme, so I found this again. Shout out to the Sony Alpha subreddit, one of my favorite subreddits to kind of check stuff out on and see what people. If you're a Sony shooter, like definitely check out the Sony Alpha subreddit, just because there's just so many fantastic examples of people being awesome and creative and using their gear in certain ways. Yeah. Lens recommendations, you name it. So like. This meme is basically saying that, like, oh, if you're buying that new Pentax 35mm and you're spending $500 on a film camera, or you're spending $1,500 on a Fuji. And look, I love Fuji. Fuji was my first love, and so I don't want to crap on Fuji here, but it's like the workhorse is the A6000 folks who are grinding out a living on a quote unquote budget camera that all it does is get shots, man. All it does is get shots. That autofocus is sick.
Yep.
A6000.
I cannot wait to
series is fantastic.
To add one of those Sonys to my camera quiver here for a multitude of reasons. But on that note, we're gonna wrap it up here. So we would like to thank everybody for watching, joining. If you stuck around for this long, you must have something wrong with you. No, I'm just kidding. No, we really appreciate anybody participating here. Any commentary, please leave in the comments. We will be publishing all these episodes with chapters on YouTube, so you can go back and watch later at your own leisure. You can just check out certain sections of the videos, but this is something we'll be trying to crank out at least once a week, barring chaos.
And we're going to be back next week with our Paris Olympics segment. I'm really looking forward to Olympics coverage with you.
Yes, it's going to be great. Although I'm not going to wear any of those wrestler outfits. I'm not. There's nothing. Yeah, I'm sticking with t-shirts, dude.
Okay. So no Speedo, no water polo cap.
No,
anything like that.
Nobody wants to see me in a Speedo ever. Yeah, we would rather watch Borat over and over again than see me in a Speedo. Believe me, that's how bad it is. So,
yeah.
Anyhow, all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and until next time, we will see you then.
Later, guys.
Yeah, later on.